Liran, Director of Developer Relations. Hello, Liran. How are you?
I'm good, having fun just chatting with developers about security stuff here at Snyk. So this is what I do day to day.
When we talk about AI, there are a number of different parts of AI which we might be referring to when we're talking about development. Now, the first one is AI in applications. So how can you get AI to assist your applications? This is about building AI into the application that you are developing and actually delivering. So a great example here is something like a chatbot, a capability which a user can access from your application, which uses AI itself under the covers. This is AI assisted applications. The second is about AI assisted processes. And this is about during the development process or our SDLC, what processes are we adapting or enabling AI in to make ourselves more productive or to really, kind of like make us faster as well, more efficient. And then the third, and the one that we're going to focus on mostly today, is AI-assisted coding. This is about how we can use AI into our code generation, into the IDE to actually help us deliver code faster, write code faster. And this is the area that we're going to focus on more today. If you use AI-generated code tooling, do you think it improves your efficiency or actually makes you potentially less efficient? So I'm going to launch this now, and you'll see there are 5 answers. So we have, yes, I do use it, and it greatly improves, or yes, I use it and it moderately improves. Yes, I use it, but there's no improvement, or consider that to be less improvement as well. Or maybe you don't use it. Maybe it's because your company are blocking you from using it for various security reasons or legal reasons, or maybe no, and you choose not to use it. Okay, interestingly, I thought there's going to be slightly more towards the greatly. The majority of people there or rather the modal answer is moderately improving efficiency. Interestingly, the second greatest answer there is no, and that's 25%. No, my company blocks us from using it. Liran, any surprises there?
No, I think pretty much the same in terms of, people don't use it for company policy reasons. Makes kind of sense. You care about the data, you care about where it goes, how it's used, all of those stuff. So I think from not using it, I guess that's the most common one. Moderately improves my efficiency is interesting. Someone just put it in the chat that they do use it, but they have to continually read the suggestions and kind of analyze them as they go. And it makes sense because it's something pair programming where you're chatting with a friend or something, you both work on something, kind of discuss it through. So interesting results still. I think we're learning some stuff new.
Yeah, absolutely. And this kind of lines similarly with what we're seeing. Interestingly, GitHub's response there, 92% of software developers are already using AI coding tools, but the vast majority of folks are actually finding themselves doing things faster and so forth. But let's move on to security now. Let's launch a second poll. How secure is AI generated code? And I think this is an interesting one in terms of how much you trust the code that is being delivered. So let me launch that poll and we'll hear whether folks think that is more secure. So is it more secure than the code? Moderately more, a little bit more. As secure, a little bit less secure, or a lot less secure? So this will be an interesting one because I think well, actually I can see the results and it's very interesting results. We'll share it in just a sec as it slows down. I'll give you a spoiler. Right now, only 2% of people think much more secure than the code I write. End that poll and share those results. Overwhelmingly, 61% of folks think it's less secure. Around 1 in 5 think it's about as secure, and 15% think it is moderately more secure. So interesting results there. Let's take a look at what some of the papers say, and perhaps these papers are maybe even a few months old already. So maybe people's sentiment has slightly changed this. But 40%, this is a study from NYU, 40% of Copilot generated code contained vulnerabilities. Really interesting stat there. And Stanford released a report, some research that said developers that didn't have access effectively wrote more secure code. But the key thing is they were more likely to believe that they wrote secure code. So it's almost like a false sense of security. But by the poll that we actually just shared, it kind of does suggest that people are getting a little bit wiser to that in terms of what it's producing. Okay, so what we effectively see is we are creating more code, it is delivering faster. And as a result, we are going to be introducing many, many more vulnerabilities into our application or our potentially our production environment. So we need some kind of mechanism to be able to adapt to that and test that. In the SDLC, AI is actually appearing further left, we say, compared to the developer, because it's before a developer actually writes that code in, it's being generated for a developer, and then the first step is for the developer to actually look at that. So it's even slightly further left, potentially, vulnerabilities going in than a developer writing it themselves. And as we go through that SDLC, we effectively need that same mechanism of testing and adapting, or effectively testing and validating that vulnerabilities aren't being introduced as if it were our own code that is being written. So we need to make sure that we're supplementing the SDLC with this kind of similar testing. Folks typically are mostly using it for generating code, I believe, but a lot of folks are also using things like summarizing code, adding comments into code, or writing readmes. Factoring is a very interesting, refactoring is an interesting way that people are doing these kind of things as well. But by and large, there's going to be tools that do a lot of this or some of this. But really today, we're going to be looking at both generating code and then also looking at code that is being created as well. So let's take a look at a potential hallucination, something whereby our AI environment can create something which potentially it's either made up or it's there is no source for this.
Where's the lamb sauce?
Come on, man.
It's actually effectively constructed this for us. This is wonderful for something creative like poem writing or story writing, but something more factual, something more scientific, this can actually be more of a pain. So let's take a look at this. The source of this is a post called Chat-GPT is confidently wrong by Elko DeVos. So he asks, what is 5 times 9 plus 4 times 3? Give the answer, then the explanation. So it says the answer is 51. To get this answer, 5 by 9, which is 45, that's correct. 4 by 3, which gives us 12, that's correct. And then we add those two results together, 45 plus 12, and somehow we get 51, which is the incorrect piece. Therefore, and this is actually a stylist piece. This is a styling issue. The stars have actually merged into italics. So I believe 9 plus 4 here is italics, but this should say 5 times 9 plus 4 times 3 equals 51. But we know this isn't the case. Are you sure about the last result? Yes, I'm confident. And this is the real problem, because when we then go on to talk to ask it, what is 45 plus 12? The same question. It gives us another answer, 57, the right answer this time. But we ask, well, before you said it was 51. And it starts getting confused and it tries to backtrack a little bit. The key piece here is whatever the topic, in this case, a lawyer using ChatGPT creating fake legal research because ChatGPT hallucinated research, or whether it is, in this case, an Australian mayor that is readying a defamation case against GPT for literally stating things that were untrue about them, or this example that we just provided you. The key piece is AI will be wrong. At some point, it will be wrong. But the point here is when it's wrong, it is confident about the answer because it doesn't know it's wrong. It doesn't know whether it's wrong or right. It doesn't know any more confidence over something that it's wrong that it says versus something that is right that it says. And that's a real problem in code or in anything like the maths problem that I showed. So what about code? We've talked about math, we've talked about legal docs and things like that. What about code? Let's talk about what people are using today in their day-to-day processes. So I'm going to launch a third poll here. What AI tools are you using day to day? And feel free to add in the chat here if there's something which isn't here today. Overwhelmingly ChatGPT. Interestingly, people are using ChatGPT and something else by the look of it, mostly Copilot. And it sounds like Bard as well in the chat, which is very interesting. So let's jump into AI coding. AI writing some code. So if we say create me a basic Express app, in this case it takes a name, as you can see here, and it uses that in the HTML here, but it pulls it directly from the request parameter, as you can see here. There's no sanitization, there's no validation, and as a result this could potentially be a cross-site scripting. The same prompt was provided to Bard, GPT 3, 5 and 4, and vulnerable code was provided for all of them. In another example, we asked an Express application using Mongoose and connecting to a MongoDB to create a CRUD application and add an endpoint allowing a post. This time around, we asked it to be secure and production ready. We got a NoSQL injection example, and this is where effectively we are not making sure that the input is a string. And as a result, what we have here as an input of name on our post is a JSON object. And this JSON object is not equal to whiskers. And as a result, this query will effectively pass me back every object here in this graph which does not equal whiskers. And the result here is a 200 HTTP 200 passing me back everything which isn't a cat called Whiskers or a pet called Whiskers. So all results, again, bar GPT 3, 5, and 4, vulnerable to NoSQL injection. When we asked these GPT engines about code to try and say, is this secure or is this not secure? Interestingly, GPT and Bard stated that the code was not vulnerable and actually gave some invalid advice. GPT-4 did notice the bug, but only when we said, is there a NoSQL injection issue here? When we were more generic about, is there a security injection? Is there a security issue? It couldn't find that issue. And sometimes it gets confused. It misses potential cross-site scriptings and finds reported and reports invalid SQL injections. In this case, this line here, this result set, this execute query, there's a select staff from employees where ID is equal to, and then this employee ID. It looks like an SQL injection, and that's one of the problems when we look at LLM or this kind of neural AI, is that it doesn't understand the content that it is creating. If we were to look at where this employee ID is coming from, it's actually coming from a constant. There's no way user input is going to come into that. As a result, there is no way this is going to be an SQL injection. But that flow from user input through to this sync point, this execute query, that traversal isn't done. There is no symbolism here. There's no tokenization of data flow and application flow, and as a result, this is actually a false positive. And this happens to all models because they're all based on a neural AI rather than kind of like more of a symbolic AI.